All right, so to continue this conversation about this NAR lawsuit, I'm going to bring Stacy in because we're going to talk about representation. I threw something out at you right at the very first part of this video about being represented as a buyer. Well, why is that important? It's important because I'm going to teach you a word. I'm sure many of you know it. It's fiduciary relationship. What that means is that the listing agent or the agent who represents the seller has a legal fiduciary relationship with their principal, who is the seller. That means if you approach them as a buyer, they owe you no loyalty. They have no legal obligation to guide you through the process. They certainly, in fact, they're prohibited from making suggestions such as inspections or pointing out things that concern them in the home. This is the most important part of the buying process. If you're going to buy a house, you want someone who is experienced and wise enough to see things that could be of concern and to be able to answer your questions if you're concerned about something that you may not understand. The listing agent has no obligation to do that, and in fact is not obligated to tell you anything in that regard. So this is my concern.
So guys, what he's talking about, when like I'll have clients come in and they'll say, well, I'm just going to go to the listing agent and I'm going to have them write both sides because I'm going to get a better deal. It's really not like that. So everybody needs representation so that, God forbid, if anything did happen, you have somebody who represents you, somebody who's looking out for you, somebody who's looking out for anything that could go wrong on that. What Mike is saying, if the listing agent is representing that seller, they cannot be representing you the same. Fair?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Stacy made another point, which I hear often, is that I'm going to go to the listing agent and get a better deal. Their compensation is already determined. So it doesn't matter what deal you're going to get. You're not going to get a better deal or a worse deal. You're just having no representation, nobody looking out for you specifically, okay, as a buyer. The listing agent has already agreed with the seller what their compensation is going to be. They already know that. It's already in writing. So this idea that you're going to get a better deal than being represented is simply, it's just not the case.
It's just important, guys. All this stuff that's coming on the news and stuff, we're not going to know until I believe it's July of what's going on with it. But honestly, it's always been a seller and a buyer's agent has always been included in on the sale. That's what they're trying to change. I'm not sure what's going to happen on that. Anything can be written in a contract. That's correct?
Yeah, so that's right. There's two components. The negotiation and the price and the fees and stuff are completely separate concern, which is always negotiable. This is representation of the buyer. And I will tell you, you sellers out there thinking, and this was sold like the sellers are going to save a lot of money. I don't know how. Everyone's still going to be around and we're still going to get paid. The only people who are really going to be hurt, as usual, are the people who need the help the most. First-time buyers are going to get hurt in this. And the other part of that is that sellers, you want the other party to be represented. That saves you, it is an incredible layer of risk management, of liability that somebody else is standing between you and the buyer, because you have no idea 6-7 years down the road you're slapped with a lawsuit because maybe you didn't disclose something or they think you didn't disclose something, and when people are unsure or the normal things that happen in a homes age, things need to be fixed, and people don't have the money, they get upset. They sometimes, some of us believe that we were lied to, or maybe there's something that, something that's not true that's going on. That's incredibly important to have a buyer's agent representing you, because they will show you the path of due diligence, and they'll be able to function with the inspections and make suggestions on what needs to be done or what could be done or what could be done in addition. So all of that, to make a long story longer, is that I'm not a fan of this settlement, but I can tell you that what will happen is buyers will be signing buyer contracts now, obligating themselves to agents, which makes it even more important to find an agent that is experienced, that you can trust, that will hold your hand through the process. And sellers, are really going to still be on the same hook with what they do already.
But are you able to take the contract and write, if I'm your buyer and I sign a contract for a buyer's agent, are you able to, if I find a home I want, are you able to write your compensation in on that agreement?
No. So here's what's going to happen is the water always finds the least path of resistance to flow. So now every brokerage is going to have a list of their listings outside of the MLSs that shows what the compensation is. It just adds an extra step. It really doesn't change anything. And there's reasons for that, but most of this lawsuit was based on this idea that billions of dollars could be saved. I don't know where they're getting that information. The only people who are going to be making money on this, frankly, are lawyers, because I promise you there's going to be more lawsuits when you have people who are not represented buying houses from an agent that has a fiduciary responsibility to their seller. Not that that can't happen, but for inexperienced people that don't know the process, they might start to feel like maybe something hinky went on. Not that it does, but it might. And there's not going to be any saving money at all. This was a cash grab, in my opinion. I know.
Cash grab?
Well, I mean, they saw huge settlements going out because people didn't want this to go to trial. I think personally, I don't think
it should go to trial.
I think it should.
Me too.
I think for everybody's benefit, I think it should, because all we're really doing is asking for more of this down the road. If it is in fact illegal, or the courts see it as being illegal, whatever this may be, then we need to get it all ironed out. But that's just my opinion. Trust me, nobody cares what I think about that. But
do us a favor, DM us and put questions in the comments. Just kind of curious of what everybody's thinking on this. If we're way off, or if you kind of understand what we're talking about, or if you think the same thing, or what you do think about it. I'd love to hear.
If you don't care about this, no worries. Don't care about it. But if you are paying attention to this, read as much as you can. I read every single thing that I can every single day on this, and it's kind of evolving. But there are some realities. One is there's no price fixing. And the other is that what changes will be made really, as far as I can see it at the moment, only hurt a certain group of individuals, and that's first-time home buyers.